All right, so let's bring in our guest. Joining us for the rest of the show is my friend Scott Stantis. He's the cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune, creator of the comic strip Prickly City, and a contributor to Center Clip. He's the winner of the Sigma Delta Chi Journalism Award and the co-host of the DMZ America podcast with yours truly, Ted Rall. Yesterday and this morning, depending on which feed you're looking at. The latest DMZ America podcast just went up, and I'll bring in our topic. Scott, Trump 2.0 is still a month away, and he's causing chaos in Washington already. After negotiating a budget deal with the Democrats, Doge Master Elon Musk, either acting alone or with Donald Trump's backing, Spaz tweeted the deal away, spooking frightened House Republicans into reneging. Then, with Speaker Mike Johnson's head on the chopping block, Republicans attempted to cut a new deal, but then the Democrats refused to renegotiate. In the end, deficit hawk Republicans voted with Democrats to turn down the Trump deal because it would have abolished the debt limit for at least 2 years. Another government shutdown looms, probably will happen, mainly because there are two Republican parties, or there's a schism in the Republican Party. Do you agree with that overview?
Yes and no. I mean, this is Donald Trump coming in. I mean, he's a deal maker. This is a guy coming in showing that he's the big swinging, Johnson in the room, and that he's in large and in charge. He killed this deal. But if you look at the details of the deal, it sucked. I mean, really. I mean, other than just kicking the debt can down the road, as it was wont to do, it also, I mean, among other things, the sides that are bemoaning the end of this deal are saying it was a deal, it was a bipartisan compromise, and all this. It included things like pay increases for Congress, which they say we haven't had a pay increase in 10 years. Well, welcome to the minimum wage, guys. Yeah.
I haven't gotten a raise in, I don't even know.
I haven't either, and neither has most of America, at least in real terms. They make $180 now base salary. That's not including additional funds being paid to these guys for additional responsibilities, which they all crave, the chairmanship of this committee or that committee. Anyway, it was.
Wait, they get paid more if they're like a committee chairman or something?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's.
I didn't know that.
That's actually something like
run for Congress.
Well, I've told you that, Rall, for Congress now more than before.
Which wasn't much.
I think y'all should both run for president. Just saying.
Ted had a great idea, and he didn't do it because, he's Ted. But he was talking about running for president 4 years ago. And I thought just going up to New Hampshire, find enough followers to help pay for the fees, and go up there and see what happens and run as the bat crap crazy socialist that he is, right, and see how that would play. Now because Ted has a theory. Ted has a lot of theories, but Ted's theory is that that America's socialist and that a socialist running would do quite well. Now,
no, my theory is based on the Gallup poll, which currently shows that 38% of Americans favor socialism over capitalism. Now, my theory further would say that most of those people are probably Democrats, not Republicans.
Oh, I would. You're.
And if you go look further, it does seem 54% of Democratic voters are self-described socialists. So my theory is, you give the people what they want, as the Kinks used to sing, and you might just get something. The only thing I don't like is that New Hampshire is a conservative state, so that's a problem.
It is, but you have Democrats voting in that state and voting in.
Sure.
I'm not sure if they're open, but I thought that would have been a wonderful experiment. It would have been a lot of fun to do. I was all in. I came up with a graphic that was snappy.
That's true.
And,
there's always next time.
If you come here to Montana, like the very first woman ever elected to Congress was from Montana, and she was a socialist. So Montana has a very strong libertarian, screw the DC bends. So come out here. It's a little bit colder.
Robbie, did you see the article in today's New York Times about how America's fairly libertarian, but that's not such a good thing?
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. It's like,
I did not see that.
I'm not. We can curse on this, right? We can.
Fuck yeah!
Because I'm reading this article. I'm literally going, "Fuck you, New York Times." I'm literally saying this.
Well,
out
what
loud
about, we could also, hey, fuck you, Wall Street Journal. We should talk about that too. About the thing
oh
you
my
sent me
God.
yesterday.
Oh my God. I called Ted in this kind of state. Ted, take it, because I'm just going to look ridiculous.
Well, so basically, the article said, basically was like breathlessly saying, by the way, it turns out from White House insiders that Joe Biden really has never been all there. And we've been faking it all along. And he's cognitively impaired. And we've had to lie to the American people and to members of Congress and foreign dignitaries repeatedly about it. And we've basically just been faking it. And it's been Weekend at Bernie's the entire time. And take it away, Scott.
No, it was infuriating because Ted and I had been saying that since the campaign. The fact, and my point was, we never saw the guy. We never saw Joe Biden on the campaign trail. He wasn't, you can say what you will about Donald Trump, but he has energy and had 2-3 rallies a day.
Mm-hmm.
Biden in 2020 had the cover of COVID, so he couldn't go out. So he did his basement campaign, and for the mainstream press now to come out and report the stuff that Ted and I had been saying since 2019, that Joe Biden wasn't there. We know what we know. We saw what we saw, and we heard what we heard. And Robbie, I cannot begin to tell you the raft of crap that Ted and I had to take from our Democratic friends. How dare you? He's the best president we've ever had. And I'm not making this up. Ted, back me up. People were telling us that.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it right now from the MAGA types. Back in 2016, I was one of the biggest Trump supporters. All right. I donated to his campaign. I was on the phones. I was actively campaigning for the guy because I wanted somebody who said, DC sucks. I want to burn it down. And then Trump gets in, and then he immediately does what he's doing right now. Instead of draining the swamp, he deepens it, goes after civil liberties. You take the guns first, do due process second. Huge supporter of red flag laws. The bastard bankrupts casinos now, and I see why, because he has no idea how to balance a freaking checkbook. And now, if you point that out, people just start saying, "Oh, Robbie, that means you want a Democrat in." It's like, we have one. Look at the damn spending bill. He's pushing the freaking omnibus that is going to create at a minimum $5 trillion of new inflation that my kids are going to pay for. My grandkids, who I don't even have yet, they're screwed. And you have all these damn boomers wanting to mortgage the future right now for their freaking empire, just for the sake of because it's President Trump. Screw that, screw you. That's my take.
Well, let's talk about what's going on in Washington. I mean, I think, we've seen these shutdown dramas so many times that frankly, I think it's the most boring story in the world. I kind of hate covering it, but I think this time we can't avoid it because this time's serious. And I mean, the transition was proceeding relatively smoothly until the last couple of days. And, basically I'm not a Republican. From the outside, this looks like an old-fashioned party schism between the sort of America First, Pat Buchanan, MAGA, Trump wing, and the old-fashioned, hardcore right-wing deficit hawks, but with a twist, right? Which is that a lot of the MAGA people are, basically have carved off a sort of a 2.5, like a 2.5 kind of faction where they're part of the Pat Buchanan America First thing, but they are deficit hawks also, first and foremost, those 35 to 38 House members who split off to vote for the Democrats. So basically it's a big tent that seemed not fractious. Now it's fractious. Are Republicans, I'm not sure about this because it's like, normally I'm pretty sure about my analyses, but I'm not sure about this. I mean, am I right here?
I think it's populist versus establishment. I mean, really, I don't think that, that's how I see it.
An establishment in my mind is not a dirty word, and I recognize that to a lot of people it is, because establishment gets things done. That's how, that's how the trains run. That's how the, that's how the heat, starts up every morning. But by turns, they've done nothing to show that they are fiscal conservatives. I mean, this is where Robbie and I are absolutely on the same page. Neither side has shown any proclivity towards wanting fiscal responsibility and looking at the budget and recognizing that schmucks like the three of us here and the people watching right now are paying this bill and going down. I mean, we're talking about a $30 trillion deficit now. I mean, that's mind-boggling. It's beyond mind-boggling. It's beyond human comprehension. Maybe that's why they can keep doing it, because it's so huge, so massive, so beyond what we could tangibly think, that, tangentially think rather, that so this is a fight in the Republican Party-ish. It's between, like you said, it's between the establishment or just the people who want the government to run. But they want things, they want to go along, get along, to just get things moving the way they are. So Nancy Pelosi's can make her, and the others can make their stock trades and build their portfolios, make $1 gazillion and, give the rest of us the finger. That's what we're looking at here. Is this a fatal break in the Republican Party, or the death throes of what has been painted as rhinos? I don't see that. I mean, I think there are people in Congress who take the job seriously and want to do the job seriously. And then there are flamethrowers, bomb throwers, and that's where the battle is right now. And Donald Trump, like I said, he stepped in because he wanted to say, I matter. Now, the other question, we touched on this, Ted, is where's Joe Biden? Wasn't he president of the United States?
Not according to the Wall Street Journal.
Well, this comes into that story. He should be stepping up and saying, wait a minute, this guy, I have never seen a president-elect act like this before. The closest historical context would be FDR coming in 1933, following Herbert Hoover. We're deep into the Great Depression. Unemployment is 25% or more. The economy's in a spiral, housing costs, everything is just down the crapper. He comes in with his platform. He came in and wrote it and publicized it and promoted it, the first 100 days agenda. Ted can probably help me with more of the specifics, but things like Social Security came later, but relief for farmers, relief for workers,
WPA, unemployment, Civilian Conservation Corps.
Yeah, just dumping a lot of money into the economy, which, but that's the last time I can think of. And we're not in an emergency at the moment, although the stock market would differ. 10 straight days of losses, which hasn't happened since the early 1970s.
And that's good for me, though, because I'm buying dividend stocks. So please keep going down.
Are you really? Smart man. Wow. You Montana boys.
They don't get eaten by bears.
No, we talk slow, but think fast. That helps.
That's brilliant. Anyway, I'm kind of babbling on a little bit, other than to say, we're entering historic waters that we've never entered before. We're having a president-elect dictate policy, which has never happened in my lifetime. And that's what we're looking at here, Ted. More than anything else, we're looking at Trump cleaning house, getting rid of the remnants of any kind of opposition, and certainly within his party.
Well, so, I mean, but the thing is, he can't purge members, although he did threaten, right, to primary anybody.
Well, Elon Musk did. Yeah.
Yeah. So is Elon Musk rogue, or is he speaking for Trump in this whole thing?
I mean, who knows? I think they are on the same page at the moment. I mean, we all know that that's going to come into a screeching halt, but at the moment
it will.
They speak with one voice. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene last night says that she would support Elon Musk for Speaker of the House,
which would be allowed.
Of course it is. You and I could be Speaker. Robbie would be a good Speaker. Actually, he'd be,
or Clovis.
Well, I have a question, because Speaker of the House is third in line to the president. So can a non-foreign-born person be Speaker?
They talk about that because they're talking about having Doge be elevated to a cabinet position, which would mean that the cabinet officers are in line for the presidency, it would leapfrog Elon Musk. You have to be a native-born American. So let's assume something terrible happens to President Trump and Vice President Vance, leaving Speaker Musk. How weird is this? Oh my God.
You skip over to the Secretary of State, right? At that point?
No. Then it goes to the President Pro Tem of the Senate.
Okay.
Then it goes to the cabinet.
And then the Secretary of State is first, right?
Yes.
Followed by Treasury, I believe. It's in the order of the creation of the cabinet department.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
That's how it is. Yeah. So I mean, whatever the most, I guess that would be, what was the most recent one? Probably Homeland Security, right?
Yeah.
Is the last one.
Yeah, that was so poor.
Yeah, I think that what I'm hoping for is that we're seeing right now with the Republican Party, and even to a smaller degree with the Democrats, is the birth of an actual new third party. Because what Mr. Scott was saying is that establishment's not necessarily a bad thing. They make things work. Mm-hmm. Well, normally that's a good thing. But if the things that are actually working are the things that are screwing over the vast majority of the people, then the default position is, I don't want anything to work. That's where I am. When people are able to, like me and Adrian just talking on the Rumble chat, if I'm able to go out and buy bacon and I can afford my rent and I only work 2 jobs instead of 3, yeah, go ahead and get your million, go ahead, get your stock options, go ahead and indulge yourself in your corruption. It's fine, whatever. It sucks, but it is what it is. But whenever you can't buy eggs or bacon and you're being priced out of your rental because rent prices keep going up, at that point, you don't want the system to work anymore. You want it to stop. And so I think that's probably where we are now.
That's brilliant. No, that's absolutely. I mean, that's Ted and I talk about when will revolution happen, and you're absolutely talking about that's when it comes up. That's when people feel hopeless.
Yeah,
you're right about rent. You're right about housing costs.
I'm living it right now.
What's that?
I'm living it right now. I work 3 jobs. My full-time job, every dime of it just goes to pay the rent. That's before anything else.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it's wild. So I'm like doing a 70-hour work week. And I would love to actually be able to stay at home, spend time with my kids, do things I want to do, work on my gaming channel. But I just don't have the time because I'm paying someone else because I can't afford to live here. And the problem that I have is that you're going to have a lot of people who, when they feel that it's hopeless and the system is rigged against them, I'm afraid they're not going to feel hopeless anymore. I think they're going to start getting pissed off, and you're going to start seeing more Luigis. And I'm really worried is that we just start seeing tens of thousands of Luigis in a very well-populated and a very well-armed society. That's what I'm concerned about. And I don't understand why these douchebags in D.C. don't get that.
Because they're insular, they don't have to, and they're making money and they're living comfortable lives. Well, look at Russia. Before the revolution. The czar was like, things are good. Things are okay. I don't know what they're complaining about. I have food. I show up in my dining room and there's food. What's the big deal? God, Robbie, he's way smarter than we are, Ted.
It's a low bar.
I would not go that far at all.
No, you are absolutely correct. And people are feeling, when there's this question, especially from our, Chardonnay swilling, limousine liberal friends, how could people have supported Donald Trump? Oh my goodness. Well, because their lives aren't great.
No,
they're struggling. And so when you had a candidate in Kamala Harris, the next governor of California, come forward and say things like, well, statistically, things aren't as bad as you think they are. Well,
the hell they ain't.
Yeah, fuck you. Of course. Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm lucky. I'm at the, end game, frankly. Stuff is paid for. But I'm looking at my kids and I'm looking at my friends' grandkids who are now dealing with rent when housing is now 60% of income. And you drop $100 at the grocery store and you walk out with one bag I always mention, I went out to dinner with some friends last night. Janine and I, no alcohol. I did have Coke Zero, and we had two
that's
rolls.
where cancer lives, is in
I know. Well, you got to die from something. It might as well be delicious.
Coke Zero tastes weird.
I choose bacon. That's my cancer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. I mean, you choose something. You choose Clovis. Clovis is his choice is rodents.
That's right. And rodents are a time-honored classic.
But what I'm saying is we're faced with now, and I think, are we on the precipice of revolution? If you look at how Marx, Lenin, all of them delineated when that happens, and Ted reminds me of this a lot, it's not when things are at their absolute worst. It's when they're starting to get better. And
yes. And also when you have a very weak and sometimes and usually a liberal reformist as the ruler. I mean,
well,
Louis
had that for 4 years,
was a liberal weak reformer. The French Revolution would never have occurred under Louis XIV. He would have sent the troops out to kill all the revolutionaries. It's like Tsar Nicholas II, who you referred to, who was dumb as a bag of hammers. He was also not really a reformer, but he was weak, and he just sort of and he had a weak personality.
Did you ever see the picture of all the kings of Europe got together, and they all look exactly the same?
Oh yeah, they're all inbred.
It's bizarre. It's like, that explains the part of the royalty. Go on. I'm sorry, Ted.
Yeah, no. I mean, so anyway, I guess, I think also, there's kind of like different metrics for assessing like how people are feeling about a society. I mean, there's the whole question of, are you worse off than you were? There's kind of like the objective standard. Are we all like poor as shit? Like we're living in Mali and there's no natural resources and objectively everything sucks hard? Or are you in the United States where that's not the case, but you can feel the downward trajectory, and that's got people upset, particularly young people who, normally would have their whole lives to look forward to and would hope to live better off than their parents, but are not. They don't feel that way. And then there's the question of, Scott, you alluded to this. Is it possible that you can get any kind of help through the existing system? I mean, what suggests to me that Americans are not yet ready for revolution is the fact that they vote. They vote in very high numbers. If they weren't turning up to the polls, it would indicate to me that people were done and through with it. On the other hand, I agree with Robbie in that I don't know if we're going to have thousands of Luigi Mangionis, but we may have dozens. And that would be, you can see the system is absolutely terrified of a Luigi Mangione, right? I mean, when he would, I don't know if you saw the imagery of him being extradited and arriving here in New York City. He was being guarded like by giant soldiers with AR-15s. He's in shackles. There's like 50 of them. I mean, it's like, I don't know what they thought he was going to do. Like suddenly spring into like, T-Rex mode or something. He's a guy. Okay. He's not going anywhere. You could have just had one marshal grab him and walk with him.
Do you know what I think that is? I think that they're afraid that the people in New York, at least a certain segment of the population, might try to free them.
Well, not just that. I also think there's, to Robbie's point, I think they're sending a message, Ted. They're sending a message saying that, this guy had the temerity to stand up against the system. This is what happens to people like him.
Right, which is also why they've overcharged him with, for example, terrorism. And also they've larded on these crazy federal charges on top of the state charges. I mean, the guy's facing life in prison without possibility of parole, but that's not enough for the system. They want to execute him too. They want to charge him. They want to give him the death penalty in federal prison. They're insane. They've just, and there's like, that's the message. Like, and I think it's going to be counterproductive. I think what it does to me is it raises his profile. It makes it clear what he's up against. If anything, it just makes them look worse. The system is what Luigi Mangione says it is.
I think I see kind of a correlation between Luigi and Timothy McVeigh, because they both went after a symbol of a system that they believed is a murderous system. Like in the case of Timothy McVeigh, when he blew up the federal building there in Oklahoma City, he said it was in retaliation for what happened in Waco. And I went back and I watched his interview. He said the only regret that he had is that he didn't know there was a daycare there. So if he had known that, he would have picked a different target.
That's horse crap. He watched the kids go in. He was sitting in his car in that truck. Gotcha. He knew it. He knew it. That's a lie.
I have no doubt about it.
I mean, that's what makes me furious about him is he watched those children go in. He watched the people go in.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. But okay. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that he was just trying to is that they both went after what they perceived as a symbol of a system. Yep. And we know that going after symbols is impactful. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they're tearing down Confederate memorials in the South is if you remove that symbol, you're demonizing something. So that's just how I kind of see it is Luigi went after a symbol of the healthcare system, the way that McVeigh went after what he perceived as a murderous federal government. Now,
I think McVeigh was more of a tantrum, though. That's the thing. Is it wasn't a focus. It was blew up the Murray building in Oklahoma City, and it was kind of like this wild swing, right? Luigi, I love that word, first name basis with this guy.
Luigi
Mangione. I love Italian. Every word you have to say like you're angry. Luigi Mangione.
Just aggravating. Was
very specific, and I think that's why the reaction to him has been wildly different than the reaction to McVeigh. McVeigh was seen as a murderist because they had images of babies being removed from the rubble.
Sure.
Mangione very specifically attacked what inarguably was the head of in his perception, the perception of a lot of Americans, of a very poisonous snake.
Yep.
And that's why his trial he's going to get a hell of a lot more sympathy. McVeigh didn't have sympathy when he was being tried, and shouldn't have. And I oppose murdering people. I think it's a bad thing to do. Is killing each other bad. My faith tells me, bad. But by turns, I totally understand a large number of American people saying, yeah, you know what? This could be the start. I have to admit, that was my first thought in my head when I heard what had happened. I said, what do you call a murdered health insurance executive?
A good start.
A good start.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the problem. I mean, here's the thing, right? I mean, Brian Thompson was the CEO, and therefore the buck stopped with him, of this multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that profiteers off misery, pain, and death of very sick Americans, and not very sick, but also it's just sick people, and it cheats them, right? It basically says, we're going to sell you a service, but we're not actually going to deliver that service. Like, the whole deal is, if you're not sick, you have to pay the premiums anyway. But if you get sick, we have to pay. It's like, oh, well, no, actually, we're just not going to uphold our end of the bargain. So it's a fraud, right? I mean, it's a giant fraud. I guess the thing is, I have a hard time distinguishing between a guy like Brian Thompson and, say, a high-ranking officer in the German SS. Both of them are murderers. The one kills with Zyklon B and a Luger. The other one kills with a pen and a laptop and an Excel spreadsheet. But they're killing people. If you kill someone like that, isn't that just an act of resistance? I mean, that's obviously what Luigi Mangione thinks.
And I think back to Robbie's point, the fact that, and your point, the fact that, Mangione is surrounded by, 50, 75 thugs to protect him. That's the message. And that's what the system fears. Coming down to, what we mentioned earlier about, in Robbie's support of Trump, for instance. I mean, let's burn it to the ground and begin again. There's a real sense, and there was, and I know we're over time, so I'll keep this short. Yeah. In debate, there's a thing called attitudinal inherency. And what that is like, you can, for instance, You can pass a law, but it won't mean anything because of the attitude that it's going to run against it. Civil rights legislation is a good example. In the 50s and early 60s, you can pass civil rights legislation, but will that change the attitudes of the? There's an attitude inherency in our culture right now, which is angry and frustrated and ready to lash out. And that's when you see people like Mangione, and I think you're going to see more. I would not be surprised.
And Scott,
and so the system is going to make a statement. You fight us, we're going to come down on you with everything we have, and we have a hell of a lot more than you do.
I have a quick question for both of y'all, because y'all are real super smart. Y'all been plugged in this longer than me. With Congress as divided as it is right now, why it's showing that the power that just a small number of Congress people can have. Why can't do y'all see the Freedom Caucus and maybe a few of the more traditional liberal Democrats getting together say we will shut everything down until we force a vote on Medicare for all? Because they have the power. The Congress is divided as it is right now. They could force any issue that they want or shut it off. You can kill the train right now.
Scott,
will it happen?
No, it won't happen because the insurance companies are a multi-billion-dollar business, and guess what multi-billion-dollar businesses do? They go and they buy and they collect the whole set of Congress people they need to make sure what you suggest does not happen.
Not to mention the Freedom Caucus is not pro Medicare for all.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just throwing a roadblock. But that, by just kind of circling back to my original point, if we can't have a government that actually works for the people, turn it off, burn it down, blow it up.
Well, that's my cartoon today for Smirkonish, Michael Smirkonish, who's on CNN, and it's just like, the legislator is saying, "Oh my God, we might have a shutdown." He said, and someone says, "Well, it could be worse." He goes, "What could be worse?" He says, "It could start up again."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, whenever I did, we've all done a lot of cartoons about shutdowns over the years, and the one that I would love to just keep rerunning is basically like, people in the Middle East looking up in the sky, and the drones are falling out of the sky because they're running out of fuel due to the U.S. government shutdown, or like at Guantanamo, like torturers going home, like the torture has been furloughed. Sorry, no waterboarding today.
Darn.
We shut down the water because we didn't pay the bill.
Yeah, that's like when Obama came in and I showed that like the waterboarding, they were going to start using Perrier instead.
Happy on.
So, Scott, before I let you go, I'm gonna put you on the spot on DMZ America podcast. I asked you the other day about Luigi Mangione, and I said, you said, well, you have to work within the system to improve the healthcare situation.
We argued about that.
But we've thought about, obviously you've had a few days to think about that. I don't know if I'm sure you've thought about other things also during that time. But, I'm just wondering if it's running in the background. Do you still want to say that? Because I feel like there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that either the Democratic or Republican parties has any interest whatsoever in reforming the healthcare system or the health insurance business in any way, shape, or form. And therefore, there is no way to reform it and fix it within the system.
I feel like I can't remember his name all of a sudden. He was the delegate at the second Congress that wrote the Declaration of Independence. And there was a delegate from the Pennsylvania delegation who said, we have to exhaust every possible avenue with the king. And he's the one who sent and insisted that the Congress send a note to the king saying, listen, we have these grievances. Can you address them? And the king wrote back saying, shut up or I'm going to hang you. And the Congress, of course, said, okay, well, that's our answer. I feel a little bit like him. I feel like I want to exhaust in a peaceable way, but we're getting close. We're getting close.
I mean, what more do you need?
I mean, I've worked for a hospital here in Montana. For the last 3 years, they said they couldn't give us pay raises because finances were tight, but they just went off and bought another healthcare system. So they're doing a merger. So you can't pay your people, but you can go buy another hospital. And by the way, we're going to stop doing outpatient or inpatient rehab for stroke and cancer patients, but we're going to have more surgery beds, so that way we can just start churning out more patients that we can no longer provide rehab for. Not burn
Robbie, you sound cynical.
I am. There's a reason for that.
You should be. There's reason. There's very good reason to be.
It sucks balls. I'm tired of working 3 jobs.
I don't blame you. And well, make Rall pay you better and Manila pay you better, for crying out loud.
Good plan. Yeah, like go after the big bucks here and those big TMI bucks.
He's got the fancy rug over his head. You can sell.
So true. And the fancy cat.
Now, it was wild. In the short tenure with Sputnik before it got shut down, I made more from that part-time job working for a foreigner than I made at a full-time job working here in the United States.
That's
How
outrageous.
the fuck does that work?
Wow.
And with that,
and I don't cuss, but
seems like a good place to wrap it up. And Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Much appreciated.
Was the audio?
Yeah, sounds good.
Everything sounds good. Scott Stantis is the cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune, creator of the comic strip Prickly City, contributor to Center Clip, winner of the Sigma Delta Chi Journalism Award, and the co-host of the DMZ America podcast. There's a new episode up right now. Go check it out. And you can go to rall.com and get a link to that and many other places. Just search for DMZ America podcast. Anywhere podcasts are sold. Scott, thank you so much. And
thanks for having me, guys.
Talking to you soon.
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's Scott. And just a reminder to everybody, we are not here Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week, which is to say the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, otherwise known as pre-Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. Please, we will be back on Boxing Day, the 26th of December. For a long time, I didn't know what Boxing Day was. I thought it was.
I have no idea what it is.
Pugilism. You see it on the calendar, though, Boxing Day, right?
Yeah, so, I don't know what it is. Is it just for boxes, or is it for?
It's an English. Service? It's a UK thing, and it's like basically, people. It's about you take your Christmas gifts and you box them and either give them to the servants or you return them to the store. I think it's something about that. It's something about gift boxes. It's not about.
I just want to point out, this is my very first F-bomb ever on the TMI show.
Ooh, see, well, it's appropriate to the name of the show, TMI. All right, so
I guess I got a little pissed off.
Yeah, indeed. All right, thanks, Robbie. Okay, Robbie is also known as Putinbot Gaming. Please support his gaming site and go check it out. And of course, thank you also for filling in once again for Manila. Please subscribe to the show on YouTube or on Rumble. On Rumble, you can become a paid supporter, but you got to do that. You got to hit that subscribe button while we're still streaming. If you're not streaming and you're watching it on after the fact when we're not live, you're not going to be able to do that. But if you watch the rerun, you can do that. Anyway, if you like what you see, find value in what we're doing, you like what you hear, please help us continue. We're fully independent. There's no agenda whatsoever other than to try to keep it as real as possible and to try to get Robbie to curse as much as possible. Thanks so much for following us. Help support independent news and content creators. Have an awesome weekend. Have a great holiday. If you're like me and you're a godless secularite,
I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on that with you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and talk to you later. See you Thursday.